The silent auction, the crystal spires of Nexus Station glittered against the void like frozen lightning. Built in the neutral zone between three major galactic powers, it served as the Empire's most exclusive marketplace, where the wealthy could acquire anything their hearts desired. Today, the auction house's marble halls buzzed with anticipation as nobles from across the galaxy gathered for a most unusual sale. In the preparation chambers beneath the main floor, 8-year-old Kira pressed her small hand against the reinforced glass, her breath fogging the surface as she watched the strange beings moving in the corridor beyond. Her brother Marcus, 12 and trying to be brave, kept his arm around her shoulders even though his own hands trembled. "Why are we here, Marcus?" Kira whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the containment field. Marcus swallowed hard, remembering the day 3 weeks ago when the Zephyrian inspectors had arrived at their family's research station. What had started as a routine diplomatic visit had ended with their parents' desperate screams echoing through the corridors as uniformed aliens dragged the children away. "I don't know, Kira, but Mom and Dad will find us. They promised they'd always find us." Above them, the auction house's main floor sparkled with opulence. Beings of every conceivable shape and size mingled beneath floating chandeliers that cast rainbow patterns across the polished floors. The Zephyrians, tall and elegant with their silver skin and flowing robes, moved between their guests with practiced grace. Their leader, auction master Vexitar, adjusted his ceremonial collar as he prepared for the evening's main event. "Esteemed collectors," Vexitar announced, his voice carrying through the chamber's acoustics. "Tonight we present something truly extraordinary. From the outer rim, specimens of the recently discovered species designation human, remarkable for their emotional expressiveness and adaptive capabilities." A ripple of excitement moved through the crowd. Humans were still rare in this part of the galaxy, their homeworld having made contact only recently. The bidders leaned forward, credit chips already glowing in their appendages. 3,000 light-years away, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, Earth's newest dreadnought. The message that had reached her an hour ago still glowed on her personal display, each word burning into her consciousness like acid. Her hands, steady through countless battles, shook as she read it again. Intelligence confirms, human miners acquired through unauthorized means. Scheduled. For private auction. Nexus Station, immediate diplomatic intervention required. Chen's jaw clenched. She had 3 children of her own, safe in their beds on Earth. But somewhere in the cold of space, 2 children who could have been her own were being sold like livestock. She turned to her communications officer, a young lieutenant whose face had gone pale upon reading the report. "Open a channel to Earth Command, Priority Alpha. Tell them we have a Code 7 situation." The lieutenant's fingers flew over his console. A Code 7 hadn't been declared in over a decade. It meant children in immediate danger, with all of Earth's military resources authorized for response. Back on Nexus Station, the auction began, with smaller items. Rare crystals, ancient artifacts, exotic creatures in containment fields. The wealthy bidders showed polite interest, but everyone knew they were waiting for the main event. In the preparation chambers, a tall figure in servant's robes moved silently through the corridors, his movements too fluid, too precise for the menial worker he appeared to be. Agent Zero had been deep undercover for 6 months, working his way into the station's service staff. His real name was classified so deeply that even he sometimes forgot it. What mattered was his mission: intelligence gathering on the slave trade routes. He hadn't expected to find human children in the auction catalog. The earpiece hidden beneath his hood crackled softly. "Zero, this is Control. We have confirmation. The children are ours." Zero's hand moved to the small device concealed in his sleeve. "Understood. Beginning documentation protocol." Through the service corridors, he made his way to the observation deck overlooking the auction floor. His cybernetic eye, disguised to look like a common injury, began recording everything. Every face, every transaction, every moment of what was about to happen. On the auction floor, Vexitar raised his arms for attention. "And now, honored guests, our featured presentation. I give you specimens KH7 and KH8, juvenile humans in excellent condition. The platform at the center of the room began to rise. Kira and Marcus, now dressed in simple white garments that made them look even younger, stood hand in hand as hundreds of alien eyes focused on them. The crowd murmured with appreciation. "Note the emotional bonding display," Vextar continued, gesturing to how the siblings clung to each other. "Humans are remarkably social creatures. The younger specimen shows particularly strong stress responses. Excellent for those who appreciate authentic reactions." A collector with multiple arms raised a glowing bid token. "What is their training level?" "Minimal, which adds to their charm," Vextar replied smoothly. "They retain their natural behaviors. The male has shown protective instincts toward the female. Quite entertaining." Marcus felt rage building in his chest, a hot flame that burned away some of his fear. "We're not animals," he said loudly, his young voice carrying across the silent auction hall. The crowd tittered with amusement. Several bidders raised their tokens, clearly delighted by the display. "Marvelous," exclaimed a blob-like creature in a hoverchair. "The defiance only adds to their value." Zero's recording device captured everything: the children's terror, the crowd's amusement, the casual cruelty of it all. His hand moved to his weapon, but training held him back. 2 children against hundreds of aliens. He needed backup. "Control, this is Zero. We have a problem. The sale is proceeding. Request immediate extraction authority." The voice in his ear was tense. "-0. Stand by for orders. Earth Command is mobilizing." 50 light-years away, the first Earth ships were already moving. The UES Retribution led a small fleet of destroyers and cruisers, their crews working frantically to plot jump coordinates. In the depths of space, other vessels were stirring, ships that officially didn't exist, crewed by people who had never been born. Back on Nexus Station, the bidding intensified. The price for the children climbed higher and higher, as alien nobles competed for their prizes. Kira had stopped crying and now stared at the crowd with the kind of steady gaze that made some of the bidders uncomfortable. "I want to go home," she said simply, her voice carrying in the sudden quiet. "The specimens retain their linguistic capabilities," Vextar noted. "Quite remarkable for such young examples of the species." A new bidder entered the competition, a creature that looked like a cross between a spider and a jeweled scarab. "I will take both specimens. My price is firm." The amount he offered was astronomical. Vextar's silver features showed satisfaction. "Sold to collector Zaxthul. The specimens will be prepared for transport within the hour." As the platform began to lower, Marcus grabbed Kira's hand tighter. "Remember what Dad taught us about the stars," he whispered. "Earth is always watching. They'll find us." Agent Zero activated his emergency beacon. Somewhere in the void, sensor arrays picked up the signal. The data packet that followed contained everything: the children's location, the buyer's identity, the station's security layout. It streamed across space at faster-than-light speeds, reaching Earth Command in minutes. Admiral Chen received the transmission as her fleet prepared for their first jump. The tactical display showed Nexus Station's position, its defenses, the shipping lanes leading away from it. She studied the data with cold fury. "Helm, calculate a direct course to Nexus Station. Maximum burn." "Admiral, that will take us through Zephyrian space. They'll consider it an act of war." Chen's smile was sharp as a blade. "Then we'd better make sure it's a short war." The children were led away from the auction floor, through corridors filled with the sounds of alien celebration. Their new owner had already transmitted payment and would collect them within hours. But as they walked, Kira noticed something her captors had missed. High above them, almost invisible against the station's superstructure, a small light blinked 3 times, paused, then blinked 3 times again. The pattern repeated continuously. "Marcus," she whispered, "look up." Her brother followed her gaze and saw it too. 3 blinks, pause, 3 blinks. The emergency signal their father had taught them during asteroid field training. Someone was watching. Someone was coming. In the depths of space, Earth's fleet jumped toward an uncertain future. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge, watching the stars wheel past at impossible speeds. Behind her, the communication station hummed with activity as Earth's diplomats made their final attempt at a peaceful resolution. Nexus Station, this is Earth Command. You have 72 hours to return our citizens unharmed. This is not a negotiation. The response came back within minutes, tinged with amusement. Earth Command, this is Nexus Station Authority. The specimens in question were legally acquired through proper channels. We suggest you file a formal complaint with the Galactic Trade Commission. Chen closed her eyes, feeling the weight of command, the responsibility for 2 children she had, never met but would die to protect. When she opened them, her expression was carved from stone. All stations, this is Admiral Chen. Operation Shepherd's Wrath is now active. Those children are coming home. The die was cast. Across the galaxy, forces beyond the aliens' understanding were beginning to move. They had taken Earth's children, and now they would learn what humanity truly meant when it said the words, "Never again." The auction was over. The real war was about to begin. The fire awakens. The 72 hours passed like a countdown to Judgment Day. Across the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire's response to Earth's ultimatum had been swift and dismissive. Indu, Chancellor Mordun, speaking from the crystal towers of the imperial capital, had broadcast his answer to every system in the sector. The primitive world of Earth mistakes galactic law for their own crude customs. The specimens were acquired legally and will remain in their designated roles. Any aggressive action will be met with the full might of the Empire. Admiral Chen received the transmission aboard the Retribution as her fleet held position at the edge of Zephyrian space. Around her, the bridge crew worked with grim efficiency, their faces reflecting the cold fury that had settled over Earth's military in the past 3 days. The Admiral's hands were steady now, the trembling replaced by something far more dangerous. Communications. Send this message on all channels, Chen commanded. To the Zephyrian Empire and all who would listen, you have chosen poorly. On Nexus Station, Kira and Marcus had been transferred to Collector Zaxthul's private yacht, a sleek vessel designed for the transport of valuable cargo. The spider-like alien had examined his new acquisitions with the detached interest of someone appraising artwork. The children were kept in a luxurious cabin, but the door was sealed and the windows were reinforced. Pretty specimens, Zaxthul had said, his translated voice carrying an unsettling mechanical quality. You will adapt to your new environment. Resistance will be corrected. But the children had learned something during their time on the station. Marcus had noticed the pattern in the guard rotations. Kira had observed which corridors carried service tunnels. They were still prisoners, but they were no longer helpless prey. Kira, Marcus whispered as they lay on the cabin's sleeping platforms, do you remember the emergency protocols Dad taught us? His sister nodded. Hide, signal, survive, wait for rescue. She paused, looking at the sealed door. But what if rescue doesn't come? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke with a maturity far beyond his 12 years. Then we make our own. Unknown to the children or their captor, they were not as alone as they thought. Agent Zero had managed to attach a microscopic tracker to their transport during the chaos of the auction's conclusion. Now, as Zaxthul's yacht prepared to depart Nexus Station, Earth's covert operatives were already moving into position. Commander Jake Morrison crouched in the maintenance shaft of a cargo freighter docked 3 berths away from the yacht. His team of 12 specialists represented the finest soldiers Earth had ever produced. They had trained for missions like this, but none of them had children on the line before. Dragon Team, this is Control, came the voice in their earpieces. Target, vessel is preparing for departure, window is closing. Morrison's voice was steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Copy, Control. Dragon Team is moving to intercept. The plan was surgical in its precision. While Admiral Chen's fleet held the galaxy's attention at the border, Morrison's team would extract the children and disappear into the shipping lanes. Clean, quiet, no diplomatic incidents. But as Zaxthul's yacht began its departure sequence, something unexpected happened. The station's defensive grid suddenly activated, scanning every vessel in the docking bays. Red warning lights bathed the corridors as security forces took their positions. In the yacht's control cabin, Zaxthul's compound eyes studied the displays with growing concern. Station control explained the security alert. The response was terse. Collector Zaxthul, we have detected unauthorized signals from your vessel. Return to dock for immediate inspection. Agent Zero, still maintaining his cover among the station's service staff, felt his blood run cold. Somehow they had been discovered. He activated his emergency beacon, sending a burst transmission that would reach Morrison's team in seconds. Dragon Team, this is Zero. Mission compromised. Execute contingency protocol. Morrison didn't hesitate. All teams, abort stealth protocols. We go loud. The maintenance shaft exploded outward as Morrison's team breached the yacht's hull with shaped charges. Emergency alarms screamed through the station as Earth soldiers poured into the vessel, their weapons cutting through Zaxthul's security with ruthless efficiency. In their cabin, Kira and Marcus felt the ship shudder from the explosions. The iodide lights flickered, and through the walls they heard the unmistakable sound of human voices shouting commands. They came, Kira whispered, her eyes wide with wonder and hope. The cabin door burst open, but instead of their alien captors, a figure in black combat armor knelt before them. Morrison pulled off his helmet, revealing a scarred face and kind eyes. Kira? Marcus? I'm Commander Morrison, Earth Military. We're here to take you home. The children didn't hesitate. They launched themselves into his arms, 8 years of military, training momentarily forgotten as Morrison held them tight. Sir, one of his soldiers called from the corridor, we have multiple hostiles converging on our position. Station security is mobilizing. Morrison stood, never letting go of the children. Then we fight our way out. What followed was a running battle through the corridors of Nexus Station. Morrison's team moved with practiced precision, their weapons and tactics utterly foreign to the station's security forces. The aliens had never faced humans in combat before, and they quickly learned why Earth species had survived their violent homeworld. But even as the extraction team fought their way toward the docking bays, the larger game was being played out, on a galactic scale. Admiral Chen's fleet had not remained idle during the failed diplomatic period. Earth's intelligence networks had been busy, and what they had discovered made the children's auction look like a minor crime. Admiral, her intelligence officer reported, we've confirmed the locations of 17 additional facilities. The Zephyrian Empire has been trafficking humans for over 2 years. Chen's expression hardened. How many? At least 300. Confirmed. Probably more. The number hit the bridge like a physical blow. 300 human beings sold into slavery while Earth remained ignorant. Chen felt something break inside her chest, a restraint that had held her back from the full fury of her species. Communications. Send this message to the Zephyrian High Command. You wanted to see what humans are capable of. Today, you get your wish. The UES Retribution dropped out of hyperspace directly above Nexus Station, its massive bulk blotting out the stars. Around it, a dozen other ships materialized like phantoms made real. The station's defensive systems, designed to ward off pirates and smugglers, were woefully inadequate for what they now faced. On the station, Morrison's team had reached the docking bay where their extraction ship waited. But they weren't alone. Agent Zero had abandoned his cover and now fought alongside them, his true skills finally revealed as he cut through alien security forces with deadly precision. Zero, Morrison called as they reached their ship. Time to go. But the undercover agent shook his head. Negative, I'm staying. Too much intelligence to gather here. Morrison understood. Zero was choosing his mission over his life. Make it count. As the extraction ship lifted off, Station Master Vextar arrived in the docking bay with a squad of heavily armed guards. He stared in disbelief at the bodies of his security forces, at the damaged walls and smoking equipment. How? He demanded of his surviving personnel. How did primitives do this? Agent Zero, still disguised as a maintenance worker, allowed himself a small smile. You picked the wrong species to enslave. In space above, Admiral Chen watched the extraction ship dock with her flagship. On her tactical display, she could see other Earth vessels moving to surround additional targets throughout the sector. The operation she had planned during their 3-day approach was now beginning in earnest. "Admiral," her tactical officer, reported, "all teams are in position. We have confirmed human populations at targets Alpha through Sigma." Chen nodded. "Signal all ships, Operation Shepherd's Wrath is now active. Bring our people home." Across 17 star systems, Earth's military struck simultaneously. Slave markets, private collections, transport ships, anywhere humans were, being held against their will, became a target. The galaxy had never seen such coordinated fury, such precise application of violence in service of justice. The children, now safe aboard the Retribution, stood with Morrison in the observation deck as their rescue unfolded around them. Below them, Nexus Station burned as Earth's forces systematically destroyed every facility connected to the slave trade. "Will they hurt anyone else?" Kira asked, her small hand still gripping Morrison's armored gauntlet. The commander looked down at her, seeing in her eyes the trauma that would take years to heal, but also the strength that had kept her alive through the darkest hours. "No," he promised. "Never again." The war that followed lasted only 6 days. The Zephyrian Empire, for all its size and wealth, had never faced an enemy that fought with the focused rage of a species protecting its young. Earth's fleets moved through their territory like wildfire, striking military targets while simultaneously broadcasting evidence of the slave trade to every inhabited world. Public opinion turned against the Empire overnight. Worlds that had been allies cut diplomatic ties, trade routes closed. The galactic community, which had viewed humans as an interesting curiosity, suddenly saw them as something far more dangerous. High Chancellor Morden's surrender came on the 6th day, transmitted from his fortress world as Earth ships held position in orbit above him. "Earth Command," his message began. "The Zephyrian Empire formally surrenders all claims to human specimens and territories. We agree to full reparations and the dismantling of all slavery operations." Admiral Chen received the message in her ready room where she was sharing tea with Kira and Marcus. The children had insisted on staying aboard her ship, finding comfort in the presence of the woman who had moved heaven and earth to bring them home. "What happens now?" Marcus asked, his young voice carrying a weight that no 12-year-old should. Bear Chen set down her cup and looked at both children, seeing in them the future of her species. "Now we make sure this never happens again. We become the shield between the innocent and those who would harm them." "All of them?" Kira asked. "Not just humans?" The Admiral smiled, and in that smile was the promise of a new era. "All of them, sweetheart. That's what it means to be human." The war had ended, but Earth's transformation had just begun. The species that had once been content to explore their own solar system now took their place as guardians of the galaxy. They established the Human Liberation Front, a military organization dedicated to ending slavery in all its forms. Agent Zero, rescued from Nexus Station in the final assault, became the first director of Earth's new intelligence service. His network of operatives spread throughout the galaxy, watching for any sign of renewed slave trade. The message was clear: harm the innocent and Earth would find you. The children returned home to their parents, but they carried with them the knowledge of what lay beyond Earth's protective atmosphere. They would grow up to become advocates, soldiers, and leaders in humanity's new role as protector of the weak. And in the cold depths of space, where other predator species might consider following the Zephyrians' example, the wreckage of Nexus Station served as a permanent reminder. Humanity had awakened, and it would never sleep again while children cried out in the darkness. The galaxy had learned to fear the sound of human footsteps. But more importantly, it had learned to hope for the sight of human ships on the horizon, because wherever humanity went, freedom followed in their wake. The fire had been lit, and it would burn eternal.